All right, hi guys. I'm here today to kind of go over some things with you in regards to what you're going to be needing in order to complete your package design. I noticed quite a few of you were getting stuck with having to use the transform tool, so I wanted to kind of show you some tips and tricks for that. There is a little bit of learning curve, but once you kind of figure it out and you play with it, I mean, it really is pretty simple. But the cool thing is you can kind of go back and look at this tutorial once again, or you can even look on YouTube to kind of find tutorials in regards to how to use the transform tool. All right, so what I'm going to do first, the menu on the top is kind of out of shot, but what I'm going to do is go to File, New. Now, I know we talked about this before, but for the purposes of the class, I always want you to default to US paper, and the reason being is all the rest of this information is already set up for you. 8.5 by 11, which is a standard size for printer paper, 300 resolution, which is the best for print, and we can just stick with RGB and sRGB for the color profile because that's pretty much like a standard. So what I'm going to put on the top is I'm just going to label it test. Make sure you always label all your files. And as you're working, make sure every 5 minutes you go ahead and save your work because sometimes Photoshop can crash. And once you do that, you lose all of your work. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so here's my blank canvas. And what I would like for you guys to do is to make sure that you're always able to see your layers. So I went up to the menu, clicked View Layers. Now these are actions in history. We'll get into that another time, but I really just want to focus on you guys seeing the layers, which is this part right here. So we'll kind of focus on that. And some of you guys are kind of familiar with that already, but we can kind of go over it. These are adjustment layers. We'll talk about that in just a bit. And this is to add a layer mask. If you go down here, usually when you hover over something, you can see it'll tell you what it is, if you're going to create a new group or create a new layer. Now, generally, I like to make sure that you guys never work on the original layer because then if you make a mistake and you want to go backwards, say for example to the history, you can go all the way back to the original without having to trash it and try and undo, because Photoshop will only allow you to undo so many times before it stops. All right, so we're going to go to Layer, New Layer, and we're going to make sure we have that other layer for us to work on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and change the color of this box and just create a box so that you guys can see that. And so as you see with the Creative Cloud, the properties show up with the older versions. You won't get all that information up there. You will have some up on the top. But in regards to getting the windows or the boxes up, you always have to go to View. And then it'll give you that opportunity to, window rather. And then it'll give you the opportunity to see what you want to look at. And then that'll come up over on this side. All right, so back to where we were. I just went ahead and made another one. But anyways, what I want to do is show you that this is a copy of this one right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Edit, Transform, and then Scale. Now if you see me pulling apart, this is just like you're pulling apart a picture, and you'll see if you're not very careful, it will get really stretched out. And imagine if that was someone's face. They would look pretty stretched out and they wouldn't fit within that box. So I'm going to hit return, and that takes the transform tool off, and now there's my shape. And if you don't like it, of course, obviously you can go to edit, step backwards, and then now you're back to the original spot. Well, let's say you're working on the package, right? And you want to make it fit either on a box or a bag or something like that. You really just need to get comfortable with using the transform tool. So there's a lot of options. There's rotate, so you can rotate it to the left, to the right. Skew, where you can kind of twist it, distort it, same thing, a little bit different, but you know, kind of same principle. Perspective, so imagine if you're thinking about 1-point perspective, where you're making one edge smaller or larger than the other. And then of course there's the warp tool. And then you have all these other ones. So what I suggest before you get done with your package is give yourself the opportunity to play with all these so you could see the functionality of each. So what I'm going to do for this exercise is I'm going to, you just saw me play with scale, and now I'm going to try rotate. If you see here, the arrows are curved, and that means you know you can rotate your object. So I'm going to go to edit, step backwards, and we're back to it again. Now let's say we want to try something else. Well, we're going to now try skew. And this is what skew does. You're only pulling one side. See that? I can't pull from here. Doesn't it look kind of funny? And so that's what skew does. Okay, just play with the edges, and it'll only pull that one edge out or forward, but it then obviously it affects the rest of the shape. So if you want to go backwards, a shortcut is Alt-Command-Z, and then you can be right back to where you started. All right, let's try another one. So we're going to go to transform, and we're going to go to distort. Let's see what this one does. Okay, we're pulling it up over here. You can pull it up on different sections. Unlike the skew, you have more options to pull your piece apart. Okay, so let's try this again. Now we're going to go to edit transform. And remember guys, if at any point in the video you're like, oh wait, she went too fast, I need to see that again, you can just pause and rewind or move the tab back. All right, now let me show you what perspective looks like. This is good if you guys are looking at the packages and say you're trying to do like a side view. It's like, oh, look at my package is getting smaller as it moves away. And so this gives you that ability to kind of give you that 1-point perspective. And then the same thing is once you rotated it, so you can always skip and move forward from where you're at. And now you're like, oh, look, now I'm going to move it around. So every time you want to do that, you go to edit transform, and you have all those different options. And look, now it looks like a row or something going far away from you. And then of course you can use the select tool over here to grab it, hold your mouse down to move that shape around. Okay, so I just undid that one, and then let's try one more. Now we're going to try warp, and this one gives you a lot more functionality because now you're pulling from those edges. It's like, whoa, check this out. So imagine if that was somebody's face or another object. You could really get this to do some crazy things if you were putting it on a, for example, like on a bottle or an air horn or something like that, because I know some of you guys were kind of working on different package shapes. So that was, again, that was the warp tool. Now you have the rotate, which is very mathematical. Here it's 180 degrees, which basically means halfway around a circle, right? And so this one's clockwise. Now I turn it this way. Let's make it go back and then back again. And so basically that's what you need to kind of take a look at when you are working on your package design. I want to show you some other things, but I think for this video that will be it. Basically I showed you how to open a new file, why it's easy or it's a good idea to start with US paper as your default size because it's 300 DPI, which is best for print. And then we started talking about the transform tool. All these different options here. Flip horizontal, flip vertical. It's kind of like a mirror image of something, and that's something else that you could take a look at too. All right, guys. Well, if you have any questions, please be sure to let me know or email me. And you can always reach me through Google Classroom or through the Remind app. Thanks.